Is up, everybody, and welcome here to the latest NNSCRA Duracell Next Gen Cup Series podcast in preparation for the upcoming 8th season of the Duracell Next Gen Cup Series, as well as the second season of the Duracell Ultra Light Series. Happy Memorial Day weekend, everybody. Early morning stream here today, but wanted to get some stuff out of the way for you guys in terms of preparation for the upcoming new seasons. And the reason it's this early is because there is some stuff that I have on tap for later on today, so I wouldn't have time to be able to do said podcast around 1 o'clock. Obviously, the Xfinity race at Charlotte is going on, as well as for those of you that are WWE fans, the King and Queen of the Ring in Saudi Arabia is going to be happening. So I'm going to be like kind of simultaneously watching both of those. And later on tonight, here on the channel, you guys will see my POV of racing in the Next League Academy Series at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Myself, RJ Bishop, and I think Nick Gunther as well, all going to be taking part in that. That particular racetrack holds a little special place in my heart with that series. Those that remember way back in the day, it was what was the series called? The NPSC, I think, something like that, or NSPC, something like that. I ran in the Charlotte race there, and you'll remember Michael Norman actually helped kind of crew chief me to a fuel strategy win in that race. So going back to Charlotte for a race in a series run by Pedro Lucas, Alison Rodrigo. Gonna have some fun tonight, so be sure to tune in to that one. All right, let's get down to it here. So, a lot of stuff I've been working on here in the last couple of weeks. The reason being, believe it or not, we are actually 2 months away from when the inaugural season of Lights and the seventh season of Cup will come to a close. July 28th is going to be when the checkered flag will wave at Michigan to cap off the two respective series. What's up, Qualls? Welcome to the podcast. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to mention here quickly first before we get into kind of what's happened in the last. When's the last time we did a podcast? I think it was like 2 months ago. So what's happened in the last 2 months since the signups video went out and all that kind of stuff. Um, One thing that I have confirmation of is that when we complete the two respective seasons for each respective series, it will not immediately transition into the new seasons. There will be a smaller mini series, not confirmed on what it will be yet, but there will be a smaller mini series that will take place. There is a reason for it. I am not at liberty to say the reasoning as of yet, but there will be a small series that will run in between, in the off season, if you will, of the current seasons and the upcoming new seasons for the two series. There will be a reason for it, and there is something on the line for the champion. I will get to all of that later on, more than likely, as we draw closer towards the end of Season 7 of Duracell Cup and Season 1 of Duracell Lights. But there will be a small mini-series that will take place. We'll have a bit of an off-season, and then we will transition into the new season for the two respective series. With that out of the way, let's bring up the current uh, list of who we've got lined up for next season. This is on the Cup Series side. So, some changes that have been made. Obviously, we had the uh, signups was the last video that came out, and that was back in March. We have Eric Sadler going to be now in the number 12 for Young Motorsports. Matter of fact, hang on, let's make it a little bit. There we go, a little bit bigger for you guys to be able to see. He'll be in the number 12 for Young Motorsports. Casey Hoyt returns to the series, but he, instead of being in the 74 that he's currently in this season, he'll be moving over to Chevrolet and Northeast Motorsports in the number 24. Benjamin Snyder will be replacing Jose Mills over at Blue Oval Automotive. His second full-time season in the Cup Series will be in a Dark Horse Mustang for Blue Oval Automotive. Eric Monaco, who is very much so in the battle with Benny Watson for the Duracell Ultra Light Series Championship. He'll be making the jump up to the Cup Series next season in the 45 out of Lake Effect Autosport. That is, for those that don't remember the announcement made of the number changes. That is what is currently the number 44 team that um, my mind just blanked out, that Reese Banks is currently driving. Alexander Rowe will be in the number 46, which is the current number 74 car that Casey Hoyt is in, also for Lake Effect Autosport. Summer Henson is going to be in the number 78 at Auto Junction Racing. She will be one of 4 drivers going for Rookie of the Year in Season 8. Eric Sadler, Eric Monaco, and Autumn Brooks will also be in that conversation. And those were the drivers that all ended up signing up and getting rides via the signups in the last podcast or sign up video. Top 12 in this season's Duracell Cup Series points will be the roster for Season 2 of the NCRA IROC Series. Unless you finish top 12, then 13th place will be the 12th driver. Okay, cool. That's a cool way of doing the criteria for it. So pretty much the 12 that make it into the second round of the playoffs. Okay. Cool beans. I think I've also mentioned this, and I'll talk about it a little bit here as we'll talk about the light series. Is it has been confirmed as well. We've got the 16 drivers that make it into the playoffs for the Cup Series this season. The top 10 get in no matter what, and 6 wild card spots. We're doing the same thing with the Ultra Light Series in Season 2. Top 10 in the point standings will make it into the playoffs, and then 2 wild card spots will make up the 12 playoff drivers for Season 2. We didn't do a playoff system here in the inaugural season. People back in, I think, the last podcast said they wanted a playoff system, so we will be doing just that. Ultra Light Series is still open in terms of signups. It will continue to remain open for those that wish to sign up. You can sign up right on this video if you so choose. We've got some rides here that have not yet been filled out of teams that are going to be fielding race cars. Michael Norman Motorsports fielding a couple of cars. They still have not had drivers announced. Haas Racing still with a couple of rides that have not been filled, as well as Southern Cross Racing. Their 95 has not yet been filled, but there is still, as you can see, I think we've only got 26 rides that are currently listed here, which means that there can be as many as 16 other rides that are fielded. Obviously, a couple of these are all-star cars with Dylan Young and RJ Bishop in the Bishop Family Racing car. Garage 55 with Anthony McCurry and Nick Gunther. Jack Mitchell, who ended up getting one of the charters for next season in Cup. So he was originally slated to be in Light Series. Now he'll just field that car as an all-star car down in the Light Series. Also, we'll see who else ends up maybe fielding all-star cars, etc. But this is the current list that we have, and if you are currently not in a full-time chartered ride over here, so obviously Sadler, Hoyt, Snyder, Monaco, Rowe, Henson, they'd not be able to run full-time for points in lights. But if your name was not on that list as a full-time chartered driver, then you can certainly sign up here and be a part of the second season of Lights. Something that I've been working on here is the Duracell Cup Series sponsor list. I've already sent the link out to some individuals for them to be able to fill in their sponsor list for next season. I've got this for the entirety of every single one of the entries that have been submitted so far. And you can see it's all the way there to the 09 MS3 Motorsports. How this works, there are one of two ways that you can give me your sponsor list for next season. One, message me on Facebook. I will send you the link to this where you will have editing powers and be able to fill in your line. If not, if you want to just do it in the YouTube comments here, you can see the list of the different tracks that we will be going to from the LA Coliseum down to Michigan, including the non points events at the Coliseum and the All Star Open All Star race at Charlotte. You can have a list in the comments with the track and the sponsors that you are planning on running at those particular racetracks. Just a case in point here, you can see Dylan Young in the 2 car down here. I have underneath the sponsors of the primary sponsors that he is running. I've got one for every single. I've got or 1, 2, or 3, 4, would depend on how many primary sponsors have been announced for every single person. You can then put in what sponsors are in what slots for which particular racetracks, and you can see Dylan has filled in with those 4 different sponsors, the different things here. You can see the possible throwback here for his We the Coasters car. He has told me what the throwback is, but if you're putting in your throwback and you're basing it off of a certain car, please put down what car it is based off of. That way I know and I can go and paint said car. Because if you just put down your sponsor and throwback car, that doesn't help me at all because I don't know what your throwback car is. Or if you want to PM me on Discord or Facebook as to what the car throwback car is, that works too. The Donkey Kong Jungle Raceway video game race, same deal. Let me know what video game it is you are representing on your car if you are planning on having a video game car for said race. As you can see, Dylan still deciding on that, and you don't absolutely have to put in that information right away if you don't know, because as I said, we don't have the season ending until the end of July, and we've still got a mini series they'll be running during the off season, so there is still plenty of time for all of that. Another thing that's going to be happening here, and if you are watching live, you can take care of it now. If you are watching this back, you can do this in the comments, and I'll probably put out a separate video for this as well. But this is an opportunity to kind of get your foot in the door and do it at this current point in time. I've actually gone in, I have checked to make sure that we have the schedule in place with the number of laps the tracks we're going to. I've even, for my own sanity in remembering things, I have put down the different track versions that we are running. So I'll be sure that I don't end up going to a wrong version when recording races. One thing that has not been filled in has been the race names. And that's where you can be able to have an opportunity to name races for respective racetracks. I have got this for both the Cup Series and also over here for the Light Series. Same deal, I've put down certain number of laps, not quite as many as the Cup Series and the track versions, etc. So how this is going to work is you can name a race for lights, and you can name a race for Cup. You can only do one of each. Uh, you let me know which track it is that each one of these race event names are going to be. You can all of the tracks as far as naming a race are open in lights. The only ones that are already previously named in Cup is obviously the Clash at the Coliseum, the Daytona 500, the All-Star Open All-Star Race, and the Throne of Games 125, because that is the game race that we used to have at Darlington, but it's going to be at the road course, Donkey Kong's Jungle Raceway. So if you want to name a race for lights and name a race for Cup, you can do so in the YouTube comments underneath this video. No vulgar names. It doesn't necessarily even have to do with like a legitimate sponsor. Like it doesn't have to be the Federated Auto Parts 250. You can name it something like somewhat goofy, I guess. Just again, nothing that is vulgar or offensive in terms of anything for the names. Nothing political, nothing like that. That's really the only criteria for the different naming of these particular races. If we end up getting to a point where we get towards the end of the season and there are slots that are not filled as far as race names and everything, then more than likely I'll end up naming the rest of them myself. But that is currently something that you guys can work on until the next podcast comes out. We're getting to the point where the podcasts are not necessarily going to be happening as regular. This one was 2 months away from the previous one because, yes, there was stuff that was going on, but at the same time, nothing that absolutely made it prevalent for there to be a podcast week after week after week after week. Um, Things are starting to slow down a little bit. Really building up to the signups was when things and the information really need to be out there. Now that the signups are complete, we know who is filling in the different respective rides that would have been open heading into season 8. Now things start to slow down a little bit. The schedule, getting that out of the way, is another big thing that's checked off the list. And then, of course, as well, when the sponsor lists end up getting put together, that's something that will be important and out of the way as well. As in terms of the sponsor list, um, like I said, you're going to have the opportunities to be able to fill in your own sponsor list. If we get to a point where people have not gotten in contact with me about, hey, I want this to be my sponsor list, or I've already filled out my sponsor list, etc., then I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit your sponsor list for you. But again, like I said, there is a long, long, long period of time still until we get to the point where it is absolutely necessary. I'm projecting that more than likely the new seasons will not start until mid to late September, if not the beginning of October. That is taking into account a number of different mitigating factors. A lot of stuff is going to be happening on my end in the next couple of months. In the beginning of June, I'm going to be on a bit of a mini vacation, be down at Hershey Park with Dylan Young and Kyle Matthews, Nick Gunther, Andrew Miller. So looking forward to that. And then there is a potential chance that I may be also on a small mini vacation in the middle of August. So with that being said, with those kind of things happening and the fact that we got that miniseries going on, I don't think it'll be until the fall that the new seasons will begin. Another thing that I was going to bring up as well is the Duracell Ultra Light Series schedule. As you can see, we do not have a pre-race like the LA Coliseum for the Cup Series, and we do not have an All Star race. Something that I was going to run by you guys. You can let me know in the comments if you want this. Do you want a pre race event for lights? It doesn't necessarily have to be at the LA Coliseum, but do you want it there? Is there a different venue that you would like to have it at? And more than likely, since now let me look and see who we've got on the roster here. Uh, Trying to look and see who we have for former winners that would end up being locked in. I see one, two, three. Just an immediate look, it looks like there's like three that are former winners on the season for lights. So that wouldn't be much of an all-star race. Probably what we would do is we would have like either heat races to put it to a main event, or depending on what the racetrack would be, how many cars it could fit, we may end up just having an all-out everybody races kind of thing. Um, I think it would probably just be the full-time light series drivers. So, for example, you wouldn't see in Dylan Young and R.J. Bishop and Anthony McCurry and Nick Gunther taking part in the event. It would be strictly the drivers that are going to be full-time light series drivers. But would you like to see a pre-season non-points event for lights, and then also an all-star race? We could do it the same weekend at the Atlanta Super Speedway, where the Duracell Cup Series All-Star Race is going to be taking place. Again, that's the only time that I will ever put Atlanta Super Speedway on a schedule is for a non-points event. I will not have a points-paying event there. That's just my own personal preference. I prefer the older version of Atlanta, hence why it's a playoff race for next season. But let me know if you want to see an all-star race event also for the Duracell Ultra Light Series next season. One thing that I was looking at that is going to be interesting is the lap distance for a number of the races next year. I am trying to make it where for the most part, ultralight series races will be 30% race distance, and the Cup Series will be 40% distance in terms of length. Morning, Benjamin. Welcome to the podcast here. So for the most part, a lot of your 2 mile racetracks are going to be 80 laps in total. A lot of your mile racetracks are going to be somewhere between 140 to 150 laps. One of the biggest ones is going to be that the Coca-Cola 600 will be our longest race of the season. It usually is. It's going to be 160 laps in total. So the Duracell Cup Series races will be much, much longer in terms of broadcast time because you can see, I believe there's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, yeah, 20 races that are going to be triple digit laps in terms of length. Now, granted, number of them are shorter racetracks, Dover, I-69 Speedway, Hillside, Iowa. These are all short tracks, so it's not like huge racetracks that are doing triple digit race lap length. So not like earth shattering, but for example, Darlington is going to have 147 laps. I already mentioned about Charlotte, going to be 160 laps in length. Homestead, Miami is going to be right on 100 as well. Atlanta, 130 laps. So there are going to be some lengthier, longer races. This is in more the thought process of wanting more long green flag strategy races because a number of races this season have fallen into that category and they have been really, really good. I have really liked them. It's funny how the mentality changes the older I've gotten in doing this. Back in the day when I was first doing series, back in the days of the Oreo Truck Series, Mobile Cup Series, Snickers Cup Series, the thought process was what kind of really, really cool wreck can take place and shake things up in the point standings. Now I'm looking more for the realism of let's have the long green flag races, let's have the green flag pit stops, let's have the field get spread out, let's have the strategy type races in terms of pit strategy. So with that being said, lengthening the races, most of them 40% in length. Few tracks I did have to kind of adjust and either make a lower or higher percentage to have it make sense with the correlating race lengths around it at the different tracks. Same thing over on the light series side. Most of them are 30% length races, but did have to kind of adjust here and there on certain racetracks. Something that I am currently in the process of considering, and I haven't 100% decided it. The Cup Series will continue to have qualifying broadcasted. There is going to be an adjustment to that. I think I mentioned this in the previous podcast, if not the podcast before that. The Cup Series qualifying from this season to next season will change in regards that there will be 2 rounds. The 2 rounds will consist of 1 round being the non charter drivers attempting to qualify for that week, When those drivers are determined, the two drivers that will make it into the field each week, we will then have all of the cars locked into that week's event go out and run for the pole position at the same time. We will not have a fast 10. We will just have it, they will all go out. Fastest driver gets the pole position. Your starting lineup is set that way. It's just to expedite it a little bit, mostly so that way I don't have the confusion of having to do two groups in the first round in terms of the non-charter qualifying drivers. Um, One of the biggest issues I had during the course of this season is with the paint scheme swaps and everything, having to adjust it twice, one for qualifying and then one for the actual race itself. This is going to help me out a lot more to be able to then immediately transition over into recording the cup races based off of what the roster was for qualifying. So that's just to make it a little bit easier on myself. Now, the thing that I was going to bring up before I went off on that little tangent is I have not yet decided, and you guys can let me know what your opinion is in the comments. Should we also have a broadcasted qualifying session for the Duracell Ultra Light Series drivers? Because currently, this season, it's just been boom, we go right into the race. This was what the qualifying was. We didn't host a qualifying session. The game just set the qualifying order, and here it is. Do we actually have a broadcasted light series qualifying session to set the lineup during the course of this season? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments and in the comments here for this podcast. Something that I'm going to have to do as well, it's probably going to be the next thing that I will currently work on, will be scheduling these particular races. Hey Dylan, how you doing? The thing for me is going to be in terms of like graphics and everything, organizing this all out so that way you guys know what is coming up for each respective race. Um, if we're doing the qualifying for lights and everything, I want to have that lined up, knowing exactly what I'm having premiere at every single point in time. Um, so that's probably gonna be the next thing that I will be working on. You guys won't necessarily need to see that on the podcast and everything, but that is something that I will have in the works here for the next month or so. That is about all that I've got here, folks. Just to kind of highlight again some of the things that you guys can do during the course of the span of time between this podcast and the next podcast. Number one, the Duracell sponsor list for next season. Get in touch with me if you want to fill out your sponsor list for next season. I can send you the link so you can go ahead and edit your line of the different schedule venues for next season, or you can take a look here at the schedule for next season and you can, in the comments below, make a list out with each respective race and what sponsor you are running. If you need to have a refresher on what your sponsors are for next season, I can let you know that. They are listed down here at the bottom underneath each one of the driver's current lines, so that way you can see what they are to be able to fill out said line for each respective sponsor. Again, for the Darlington Raceway Throwback Race, if you're doing a throwback, let me know what that throwback is. Same deal for the video game race if you're planning on taking part in that and featuring a video game at Donkey Kong Jungle Raceway. Let me know what that is. Like, there is not a rush on that, as I said. The seasons don't even end until July 28th, but I will need that information when we end up beginning the new season. The last thing as well that we covered here is for both the Duracell Light Series schedule. You can see race names completely blank. Same for the Duracell Cup Series schedule outside of 5 events. If you want to name a lights race and you want to name a cup race, let me know in the comments. Ready to go back racing. Yeah, I agree. You can name one lights race and you can name one cup race, and you can do that in the comments below as well. Let me know what the venue is and what the race name is and which series it is for. One for lights and one for cup. Do not name multiple for cup or multiple for lights at this point in time, so everybody can get in on the fun. That is it, folks. I apologize again for the early morning podcast, but want to get this stuff out of the way. I've got some stuff that's coming up here during the early afternoon and later on into the evening. Be sure to tune in later on tonight for an NNSCRA online uh, stream where myself and some friends going to be racing in the 2024 Next League Academy Series at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Should be a good one there. Have a great rest of your day. Once again, happy Memorial Day weekend, everyone, and I will see you guys on the next podcast whenever it drops. See you guys. Take care.